Good morning. It's good to see everyone here today. Now, I'd like to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Columbia. My name is John Starino, and I am your service leader of the day. Now, this is the time for announcements, and I have one particular one that I'm going to start off with that's been included. The Children Youth Religious Exploration depends on volunteers to make UUCC a welcoming place for families. This summer is the perfect opportunity for the whole congregation to minimally volunteer by simply enjoying the presence of children and sharing our covenant of mutual respect, dignity, and compassion with our smallest friends and members. We will have toys and crafts available in the foyer and in the social hall for children to bring to their seats and family grouping. Now, the nursery will be available for infants and toddlers who are born to age 3. Now, to those of you here with us in the sanctuary, please be advised that this service is being streamed on YouTube. To those of you watching this stream service, we're glad to have you watching, but would, of course, rather have you here with us in person. Also, let me remind you that we have a pre- and post-service Zoom event, which also runs the YouTube stream of the service. Now, please make sure you read the announcements in your printed order of service. Also, and especially, be sure to read the weekly events that are emailed to you each Thursday, as well as the unigram and information on our website, and urge you to keep the website, the UUCC website, open as a tab on your internet browser so you can keep up with what is happening. Now, please practice social distancing and mask wearing per board-approved guidelines. At the moment, approved guidelines are that masking is optional while in the sanctuary, except that mask must be worn during singing. Now, as you can see, we have flowers this morning. Today's flowers are provided by Jean Capalbo. Excuse me if I mispronounce your name today. I'm a little bit rusty. In memory of her big brother, Frankie Andrews, who drowned when he was 16 years old while on a camping trip with friends 60 years ago this week. Thank you very much for bringing flowers to our sanctuary today. And now let us center ourselves for today's service and to remember to silence all electronic devices as we listen to the prelude.
Hello, everyone. This was my parents' favorite song when they were dating. It's by Mecano, and it speaks to the genius of Salvador Dali, a Spanish surrealist painter. Dali se desdibuja, tirita su burbuja al descontar latidos. Dali se decolora, porque esta lavadora no distingue tejidos. Él se da cuenta y asustado se lamenta. Los genios no deben morir. Son más de 80 y asustado se lamenta. Eugenio Salvador Dalí. Bigotero coco, de donde acaba el genio, a donde empieza el loco. Mirada deslumbrada, de donde acaba el loco, a donde empieza el hada. En su cabeza se comprime la belleza, como si fuese un olla express. Y ese vapor que va subiendo por la pesa, mágica luz en Caracas. Si te reencarnas en cosa, haz un lápiz, un pincel y gala de piel sedosa, que lo haga lienzo en papel. Si te reencarnas en carne, vuelvan reencarnarte en ti, que andamos juntos de genios. Eugenio Salvador Dalí. Realista y surrealista, con luz impresionista y trazo impresionante. Delirio colorista, colirio oculista de ojos delirantes. En tu paleta mezclas místicos aztecas con bayoneta y con tetas. Y en tu cerebro gala Dios y las pesetas, buen catalán anacoreta. Si te reencarnas en cosa, haz un lápiz, un pincel y gala de piel sedosa, que lo hagan lienzo en papel. Oh, si te reencarnas en carne, vuelvan reencarnarte en ti. Queremos genios en vida, queremos que estés aquí. Eugenio Salvador Dalí.
Thank you, Ana and Mercedes. Thank you. Now I invite you to please stand and join me in the congregational covenant as found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant with one another. Please be seated. Thank you. Our minister is the Reverend Stephen Robinson, and on those Sundays when Stephen is not in the pulpit, we present a variety of qualified and interesting speakers from this congregation or from recognized guests from the wider community. Unitarian Universalism is a diverse and non-creedal religion. We are a covenantal religion, which means that we don't have to believe the same in order to treat each other the same with respect, equity, compassion, and dignity. Our community is based on deeds, not creeds. Now, during Reverend Stephen's sermon last week, he made a special note of this because we are in Pride Month. And I am going to add a little bit more to this, especially today because, well, just because. See, as Unitarian Universalists, we side with love, embracing all people, regardless of age, color, race, socioeconomic status, physical ability, or religious background. Now, I am going to add this right here. We especially invite families and young children, and our religious exploration team would like everyone to know that for the next several weeks, we will not have enough volunteers in our children's classrooms to provide nurturing classes for them. We love our families and want them to continue to feel welcome and supported. So we have invited them to keep their children with them during service until we can resume their educational programming. We also love our members and want everyone to have an enjoyable experience in our services. So at this time, if you feel that a little noise might be distracting or make it harder for you to hear, please come closer to the pulpit. Now, what was stressed last week during Reverend Stephen's sermon is that we are a welcoming congregation, which means we also embrace LGBTQ individuals. On a personal note, I woke up this morning and thought to myself that I work with LGBTQ individuals during the week, 3, 4, 5 times a week. So I wish to state that I stand with pride, and if you feel the empowerment that I feel with this and wish to stress, individualize, and bring forth on your own, naturally, where you stand during our Pride Month this month. And I want to make special note of that today, and thank you. Now, we encourage everyone to wear name tags, and voila, I have mine today, so that we may know each other better. Board members wear green name tags, and they always welcome your comments, questions, and suggestions. Now, would the members of our Board of Trustees please stand now so that you may be recognized? Thank you. Now, at this time, we would like to recognize any guests or visitors who are with us today. Now, visitors, would you please fill out a visitor card and put it in the collection plate there should be one in the back of the chair in front of you. That information will enable us to send them our newsletter and emails about events. Now, don't worry, no one will come to your house uninvited. Now, visitors, if you are willing and able, please rise and share with us your name, and please wait for the microphone so that, and where you are from. And if you have guests with you, please feel free to introduce them. Now, Mark will pass the microphone to you once you stand.
Excuse me.
Hi, I'm Adrian. This is Raleigh, and my wife, Melissa. It's our first time here.
Hey, Adrian. Melissa, nice to see you.
Thank you for being here today. Welcome.
Excuse me. Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing? Hi, I'm John Soleil. I'm from Burlington, Vermont, and I'm visiting. I'm staying at Fort Jackson for chaplain training.
Well, welcome, John. Appreciate you being with us.
Now, when we are further along in our recovery, we will take time to greet each other. And I will tell you that you are all welcome to stay and continue your conversations and enjoy refreshments in the social hall after our service today. Now, I have another duty today. I must have a clone somewhere because I'm also the chalice lighter today, So I'm welcoming myself. I, John Storino, am a poet, a father, and primarily a soul practitioner as a UU. He is keenly aware of being a universalist in the Columbia environs, for in order to have gotten through these past 2.5 years, he participates in a local karaoke group. Maybe choir is next for me here. Time will tell. Now, this is going to be a very unique service today, and I'm glad that many of us have improvisational skills. Because the duty, I'm going to mention though, I was looking forward to Reverend Stephen's sermon today because the duty of fatherhood is a duty of life. What role must a father adapt to when a mother is no longer available in a family? This question is on my mind even now. A husband may mourn a wife. He must never lose sight of his role of being a father.
Thank you, John. Spirit of light and life, be with us all. And John, thank you for bringing announcement. Mercedes and Anna for the song. John, I promise you, after your forceful delivery, I will make sure I read the order of service, as well as all messages that come from Andrea, as well as visit the website. I'm kind of afraid not to now. Ladies and gentlemen, playing the role of Stephen Robinson in today's production will be Mark Drews, who yesterday received a text message asking if I would accept the understanding that Stephen and his family are home today with COVID. Stephen has tested negative and repeatedly testing negative, but family members are positive, so we will be sending positive energy and thoughts to him in hopes for negative testing soon. Did receive some of Stephen's notes, and I will try to go ahead and, as John said nicely, improvise the very best I can. Last night, I, in the words of Alexander Hamilton, typed as if I was running out of time. We'll begin with our moment of all ages, and we're going to do it from a song many of you remember from Yusuf, also known as Cat Stevens. For my child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there are planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. And he was talking before he knew it, and as he grew, he said, "I'm going to be like you, Dad. You know, I'm going to be like you." And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you coming home, Dad? I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. My son turned 10 just the other day, and he said, "Thanks, Dad. For the ball, can we go out and play? Can you teach me to throw?" I said, "Not today. You see, I've got a lot to do." And he said, "That's okay." He said as he walked away, but he smiled, his smile never dimmed. And he said, "I'm going to be like him. Yeah, I'm going to be like him." And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you coming home, Dad? I don't know when, but we'll get together then. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, he came home from college just the other day, so much like a man I just had to say, "Son, I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while?" He shook his head and then said with a smile, "What I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later. Can I have them, please?" And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you coming home, son? I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. I've long since retired. My son's moved away, and I called him up just the other day. I said, "I'd like to see you if you don't mind." He said, "I'd love to, Dad, if I can find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle, and the kids have the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's sure been nice talking to you." And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me that he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man on the moon. When you coming home, son? I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. I'm going to pause for a moment as we go to our opening words, and I did receive a set of opening words from Reverend Robinson last night. And if we sit back from Nickel Creek, a song that they wrote, "When You Come Back Down." You got to leave me now. You've got to go alone. You got to chase a dream, one that's all your own, before it slips away. When you're flying high, take heart along. I'll be the harmony in every lonely song that you learn to play. When you're soaring through the air, I'll be your solid ground. I'll take every chance you take, and I'll still be there when you come back down. When you come back down. I'll keep looking up, waiting your return. For my greatest fear is that you'll crash and burn, and I won't be there to feel your fire. I'll be the other hand that will always holds the line, connecting in between your sweetheart and mine. I'm strung out on that wire, and I'll be on the other end to hear you when you call. Angel, you were born to fly, and if you get too high, I'll catch you when you fall. I will catch you when you fall. When you're soaring through the air, You'll be on solid ground. I'll take every chance, or you take every chance you dare, and I'll still be there when you come back down. Take every chance you dare, and I'll still be there when you come back down. When you come back down. This time, we have an opportunity to hear from our music director, Anna Hamilton, who will share a little bit information as we pay tribute to our new piano.
This morning in community at the UUCC, we take time to recognize and welcome this beautiful piano. We express our heartfelt gratitude to Joseph Eisenreich, his husband Drew, and daughters Miriam and Colette for their generous donation of this extraordinary instrument. As they move forward in their journey and relocate to California, this piano will serve us not only musically in our community, but as a lasting reminder of the love we have for them at our UUCC. This morning, we honor also the Sommer and Company baby grand piano that has been here, present, providing music at the UUCC since the 1980s. It was a gift from Helen Moody in memory of her partner, Pearl Hoffman, and it was given in love. Please see the July Unigram for a special tribute to the history of our previous UUCC piano and recognition of our new instrument. We extend a special thanks to Jean Capalbo and Craig Chatton for their generous donation to provide for piano tuning, moving, and a beautiful new piano cover. This morning, may we engage together in a piano dedication. We dedicate this piano to the greater cause of music. May the music, the sound, the energy created from you touch our hearts, our minds, move us, and help us to feel. Comfort us in times of sadness, grief, and loss. Draw us inward towards reflection. Draw us out into connection and community. Accompany us in times of celebration and joy. Connect us to a rich history through the music that has been present in so many times, and move with us forward in our living tradition and our changing world as we seek together a better future. Today, we honor the hands and lives that built you and contributed to your creation, your journey, and the time you spent with the Eisenreichs in their home. Your presence here as we welcome you into this space and into our community. The many hands and people that will make music through and with you. This morning, we recognize that even in our times of celebration and joy, we live in a world that calls to us. A world still hurting with systematic racism, oppression, injustice, environmental destruction, and war. Our faith calls us to work for a better and more just world, and love leads us to build inclusive and truly welcoming congregations. May the music made here strive to answer that call. Joseph is such an amazing person, and having him and his daughters here with us has truly been a gift. His one request was that I play Philip Glass. I commit myself to so much more than that, but we'll start there. This is Etude number 16 by Philip Glass.
Thank you, Anna. And thank you, Joseph, Colette, Miriam, and Drew. We've come to a point in our service where we have an opportunity to share our personal joys as well as sorrows or concerns that you might have. And if you have a personal joy that you'd like a candle lit, please notify Andrea by noon on Friday. This time, if anyone has a candle that they'd like to share, please do. I'd like to go ahead and bring the first one to light in commemoration of the Robinson family. Stephen, Michelle, Mary, Sarah, Luna, you're all in our hearts, and we're hoping to have you back soon. And Stephen, you can dust off the service that you had prepared for today and bring it back next Father's Day.
I'm Linda Brennison. Today I'd like to light a candle of remembrance. 7 years ago, on June the 17th, 2015, about 24 members of a Bible study group at Charleston's Emmanuel AME Church, known as Mother Emmanuel, were holding their regular weekly evening meeting. An admitted white supremacist entered the church shortly before the meeting and sat with the group beside the Reverend Clementa Pinckney. After prayer was said and the meeting was over, the white man stood up and opened fire on the African American churchgoers, killing 9. Let us remember these 9. The Honorable Reverend Clementa Pinckney, 41. Cynthia Graham Hurd, 54. Susie Jackson, 87. Ethel Lance, 70. The Reverend DePayne Middleton Doctor, 49. Tywanza Sanders, 26. The Reverend Daniel Simmons, 74. The Reverend Sharonda Singleton, 45. Myra Thompson, 59. And further, I would like to say that as a Unitarian Universalist, I pledge to fight systemic racism and oppression of all forms. I pledge to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Caroline?
John told me I needed to go outside and get a candle, but I was sure that someone would get one for me or it wouldn't negate what I was about to say because I didn't have one. I'm up here because I knew John wouldn't get up for himself. And I wanted to recognize his father, who went by T.A. Logue. But actually his name was Theophilus Abijah Logue. See, I knew you would. Thank you. And I want to recognize him because I only met him once. And I guess by the time that I met him, he was sort of gruff. And what John passes down about his memories about him was how gruff he was. But if I had time to tell you about his life, you'd understand why. A summary of it would be that as a 6-year-old, he had to lead the children in his family to look into the casket of his dead father that had been shot by his brother-in-law. But that's not what I want you to remember about him. What I want you to remember is that he was John's father. And I knew I would cry before I got through this. And maybe I need to analyze why that's so. but there is no more wonderful person than John. And I think that if his children were here, they would want to recognize that Jennifer Milton, Leanne Logue, and even Todd Logue had the greatest father in the world, and they were really lucky, and I'm lucky to have him in my life. Beyond that, I have to say that I am a Unitarian Universalist because my father was a Universalist from his birth, even though he was an orphan from the time that he was 8 years old. He was still able to pass that down to me. And I'm thankful that Robert Willard West, United States Air Force, was my father.
Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate it.
I'm Craig Chatton, Gene Capalbo. We're here to light a candle of great concern and also to give you all an opportunity to practice what we preach in being a religion of deeds rather than creeds. Gene will explain.
Yeah, we have a concern, and I hope it will be a concern for all of you. I'm in touch with Jolt Solomosi, the partner church minister, who some of you heard speak a couple of weeks ago about all the Ukrainian refugees that are coming into Cluj, the second largest city in Romania. He started off with 12 people in his apartment. Then the school took in families. Now the school is renting 3 other apartments. And up until the time that school ended, all of them were eating at the cafeteria, and there were parents who were providing extra food for everybody. Now school has ended, the cafeteria is closed. They set up a little kitchen space for the families that live there, and they're trying to treat these people as family, because not all of the people in that city are treating them well. Jolt has never asked for anything, but he has asked for help. To buy food for the families, and he doesn't know. They've been there for so long, and I think the families were thinking, they're going to move on one of these days, but they're not. They're not. This war is going to go on, and there may be more people coming. But he seemed desperate, and we're gonna send some money to help buy groceries. Lee Mingy's already sent some money to help. And if any of you want to give anything at all, we'll be in the social hall and we'll tell you how you can help. And you that are watching virtually, just get in touch with one of us and we'll help you help them. What am I leaving out?
I think that's about it. We'll be around after the service, so come see us if you want to help.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard him so, with such a heavy heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Craig. Thank you so much.
My name is Jenny Verne, and I'm kind of the mouthpiece today for my friend Jenny Stout. She and I have known each other for almost 60 years. Jenny would like to light a candle for several reasons. First of all, her birthday is this week, and she is alive. Just about a year ago, she had a stroke. She was in England, and the only person she knew really well there was her partner, John. And they just made it back to the U.S. a few weeks ago. Jenny wants to say she is so grateful that she is alive. She's grateful that she has friends to support her. And she's grateful that she's being welcomed in this community. So that's it. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. At this time, we will light one final candle for all those joys and concerns that remain silent in our hearts as we think in terms of fatherhood, Juneteenth, and the conditions of the world today. Join me in a moment of silence as we ponder these joys and concerns. Thank you. This congregation contributes to Share the Plate, where half of our cash collection each Sunday goes to a special nonprofit in our community. This month, it's Good Samaritan Clinic, provides services and support to those who need it the most, especially the Hispanic and Latino families. They have sites here in Lexington as well as at Edisto Beach and other sites around the state. At this time, would the ushers please come down? And if you would, Share the Plate if you are contributing to by way of check. But if the ushers please come down this time.
This morning's offertory is Soaring by William Gillick.
Thank you, Jeanette. And thank you all for your contributions, because it truly does serve as an example of our loving and generosity that this congregation provides each other. Thank you. Stephen, thank you for the opportunity to come share before this wonderful congregation. Last weekend, Patty and I were not here because we accompanied our son and daughter-in-law to a performance of Hamilton. And the song in the final act included 8 words that resonated with me tremendously. Who lives, who dies, who tells our story. For this morning's service is an opportunity to pay tribute to a powerful combination of holidays, equally honoring both the past and the present, as well as the opportunity for stories, a lot like Carolyn's, and the many stories that each of us have about our fathers, about our roles as fathers. The 2 holidays Juneteenth, which commemorates the freeing of 250,000 black people who were enslaved in Texas more than 2 months after the Civil War ended in 1865, as well as Father's Day, which honors the role of dads everywhere. It's a blend of the past and the future that makes this day especially important to many young black men. For Juneteenth honors their ancestors who showed amazing grit and amazing strength for generations under the most horrendous conditions that changed the course of their lives and the generations that follow. While Father's Day celebrates the influence of fatherhood and the development of future generations. Many of us now know that Juneteenth is the celebration of the day, June 19th, 1865, when a Union Major General read the order to people of Galveston, Texas, proclaiming that all slaves are free. Commemorations of that day, also known as Freedom Day, Jubilee Day, Liberation Day, have been continuing since that first celebration, although it's evolved throughout the years. Celebrations were often tied to civil rights movement in the 60s, and a strong connection emerged, tying the holiday to the arts, to music, to poetry of different African homelands throughout the mid-1970s. For many, the celebration of the day was mostly focused on the black community, and now that it's a national holiday, it provides all of us a chance to learn more about the day and that history. Not sure about others in the room, but I know it wasn't a part of the history that I took in the late 60s. It wasn't until I was a young dad, my kids were in teens, that it became familiar with me and I wanted to learn more about it. But this day also provides us an opportunity to serve as advocates, recognizing the day as a celebration of freedom and a celebration of accomplishments. It is our opportunity to be more intentional about open conversations about Black history and pushing for action and advocacy. Many of us have long time experienced sometimes very uncomfortable conversations. We want to support, but what does that really mean? Saying that we support is one thing, but we've got to take action. Back on February 21st, our congregation hosted a community conversation entitled Talking to Children About Racism. Right here in the sanctuary, we filled with about 130 citizens throughout the community. We welcomed a panel of educators, experts, and community leaders who focused on children and helping them succeed in a diverse, multicultural world by sharing their research and best practices, sharing their suggestions and advice. We chose to host that event knowing that children were being bombarded with news accounts of racially motivated disturbances and shootings, protests and flaring emotions, political ads, and campaign rhetoric that appealed to people's fears, prejudices, and the need to divide us. It was important that we, as a congregation, give children reason and appropriate guidance on the issue of race. That was over 6 years ago, and we continue to ask ourselves, who lives, who dies, who tells our story? Several times over the past few years, attention has been placed on these critical issues. Last August, many of us were here when Pat and Richard shared their stories about growing up in the South and how race impacted their lives. We need to continue these conversations. We can make a difference by starting with our own sphere of influence, by advocating for the recognition of Juneteenth. For example, in your workplace or your school, if it doesn't have and celebrate the holiday, assume the leadership and see that it does. As a sidebar, Adventure is celebrating Juneteenth today for a second year as we make sure that our citizens understand its meaning, its history, its traditions, and the importance it has for all citizens of our area. For although June 19th marks Juneteenth and the end of the slavery was not so clear-cut, that's why it's valuable that we start educating ourselves about the full history of Juneteenth and the events that led up to it. The hope is to pass down the history and truly learn from the past. Amelia Ross Hammond, the founder of Virginia African American Culture Center, said that this is our story and it can't be kept in a box. This is our time to reflect, time to open up and have an honest discussion, and a time to think about critically of what we can do so we don't have to do this and revisit this again. Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom. And as fathers, we all set out to prepare our children for that sense of freedom. Reverend Robinson planned to use the myth of Icarus and Daedalus and their relationship to explore the dilemma for all of us, balancing the desire to give our children wings while wanting to keep them safe in a violent world. Icarus was the son of Daedalus, an incredibly smart and inventive man he was. And he started thinking about how he and Icarus can escape the labyrinth in which they were in. After all, Father was the one who created that labyrinth. And knowing the architectural creation was too complicated, he figured out that they could not come out by foot. He also knew that the shores of Crete were dangerous and guarded. Thus, he knew that the only way to escape was by air. So being an engineer, he managed to create gigantic wings using branches of osier and connected them with wax. He taught Icarus how to fly, but told him to keep away from the sun because the heat would make the wax melt, destroying the wings. The two managed to escape the labyrinth and flew into the sky free. The flight of Daedalus and Icarus was the first time that man managed to fight the law of nature and beat gravity. Although he was warned, Icarus was too young and too enthusiastic about flying. He got excited with the thrill of carrying and flying, and got carried away by that amazing feeling of flight and that amazing feeling that comes with freedom. And he started flying higher and higher, saluting the sun, and then diving low into the sea, and then back up high to the sun. His father tried in vain to help the young Icarus to understand that his behavior was dangerous. But soon Icarus noticed that his wings were melting, and he fell into the sea, where he drowned. And as a father, Daedalus fought very hard to seek freedom for his son, to protect him, to guide him, and to support him, only to have his son overwhelmed by the thrill that comes with that flight and that freedom, and leading him to risky behavior and death. As dads, we are all expected to find the right balance of holding on and letting go, allowing our children to soar while being there to celebrate their successes or being there when they fall, sharing that sense of pride or the hurt of disappointment. As parents of adult children, we must know when it's time to bite our tongue and keep our advice to ourselves. On the other hand, we must always remember to bite our tongue and keep our advice to ourselves. Sometimes we find ourselves in that hopeless state as we watch wax melt. As a dad, I have no clue what my kids will remember about me. I don't really know what stories they will tell their children, for they've all heard my messages encouraging them. Just 3 pieces of advice. Be who you are, be where you are, and make a difference. I didn't realize until they were young adults that they were just words, that they would politely smile and nod, as I would say, share them. To be who you are has far different meaning than it did in the 80s and 90s. And it's important to convey that message that each child is a very special, one-of-a-kind, awesome person. To be where you are, place the importance on being present. And to make a difference is to provide some good as often as you can. Back in September 2013, I had the honor of sharing the pulpit, and I was able to share some of my thoughts, and of course, they were mathematical elements of parenting. Included was the importance on limits and how limits served as a foundation for parenting, maintaining boundaries while supporting our kids' goals, hopes, and aspirations. Deep to the core was the emphasis on the sense of order, structure, tradition, routine. And holding it all together was a strong sense of values, knowing what is right and what's important to each of us. And we're motivated by those values. Completing the list was setting a high expectations. There were no financial rewards for doing their homework, doing chores, or making good grades. Those were expected. There were many things that were non-negotiable. It wasn't an option to take a bath or shower, to brush your teeth, or to do your very best at any task. Setting expectations provided young people a taste of the future. Many kids really don't understand the concept of future. So it was our responsibility to help them understand by providing opportunities that allowed our kids to anticipate those things to come. Those 4 elements, first letters, when you arrange them, you have LOVE. Limits, order, value, and expectation. And the synergy of these words is what really is the necessary component of being a parent. Now, more than anything, while I embrace the idea that our kids truly are our greatest teachers, I also learned so much from my wife, for she modeled the sense of thoughtfulness, kindness, consideration for others. And that's what giving and being a parent is all about. I watched her with her own students that she taught and the time she spent with and for them. And that's what teacher is all about. I learned from her as she spent time with our children, dedicating more than time, but that incredible enthusiasm for her role as a mom. And that's what co-parenting is all about. For she made sure that praise reigned on our kids, compliments were abundant, and hugs were shared freely. She encouraged, nurtured, set limits, and placed high expectations for each of them. And that's what love is all about. During the holidays, she would carefully select items that were specifically chosen for each child. Yes, I learned from my wife how to be a dad. Leo Buscaglia reminds us that only when we give joyfully throughout and we give without thought of gain can we truly know what love means. For each of us creates our own definition of parenting in our own way, based on our personal experiences. As is the case in any relationship, it's all about being persistent in our work to support, nurture, and to encourage one another. Since we grow from our strengths, we know that it's about praising our children endlessly for the things they do right and teaching them to appreciate freedom and the chance to stand up for their beliefs, to embrace happiness, to nurture their sense of creativity and productivity, all while pursuing a higher quality of life. And isn't that what Juneteenth is all about? The opportunity that afforded the slaves in 1865 and generations that followed, and to celebrate that freedom and what it means to be a community, to engage in conversations about what the day means, including challenges, struggles, and stories, and to learn from one another. And isn't that what fatherhood is all about? An opportunity to celebrate children's freedoms, to be who they are, allowing them to forge their path to make a difference in their own world. The day allows us to engage in those conversations of what this day means, including those challenges, struggles, and stories, but most of all, to learn from one another. Who lives, who dies, who will tell our story? Let me return to a line that I just shared when I said that each of us creates our own definition of parenting in our own way based on our own experiences. Haven't we all created our own definition of membership in the UUCC in our own way, based on our own experiences? And as any relationship, isn't it all about being persistent in our work to support, to nurture, and to encourage one another? So as we look to build and strengthen our community, we'll continue to honor the past and begin those rich conversations about who we are as a congregation, who we want to be, and where we'd like to be in another 10, 15 years as we write our story and pass our legacy on to the next generation of UUs. Who tells our story? So here's to freedom and what it means to all of us. And in the words of our exit song, let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Thank you.
Our closing hymn is Go Lift It Up with words and music by Mortimer B. Barron. You'll find it in your teal hymnal. It's number 1057. And I invite you to please wear your mask as you stand, as you're willing and able, and join in singing. We'll sing it twice through.
Thank you, Anna. Please be seated, and as we consider the blending of Father's Day, Juneteenth, and that story that at one time was just Greek to me, let us be mindful and let us go forth with the spirit of action. During the time I was worship leader and worship chair, I remember advocating that we truly want services to inspire, to teach us something, to move us in some way, to touch emotions, but most of all, to serve as a call to action. I hope this was served in that manner. This time, we'll go ahead and extinguish the chalice. And as I do, go ahead and begin with our congregational benediction.
I invite you to stand and join in singing our congregational benediction.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Though this does almost complete our service, we do have a special exit song that Anna has prepared that we will go ahead and play. Beg your pardon?
It's for exiting.
For exiting. And again, of all the places you could have been, you chose to be with us today. And to Adrian and MJ and Raleigh, to John, our guests, thank you for being with us. And for all of you, have a great week. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Anna?
As you exit and go into your day, I shall play Lift Every Voice and Sing in recognition and celebration of Juneteenth.